Okay. Well, that's a win. That's another one. That's two wins in a row for the Knicks. 5 out of 6. 5 out of 6, 2 in a row, and 7-5 overall for the New York Knickerbockers. Let's talk about it here in episode 580 of BD4. Let's go. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
U.S. trying to close the show.
She was doing a great job of feeding that. It's over.
Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to episode 580. Something's going on with my neck recently. So I promise I'm not losing it. I'm adjusting when I do that. If you're watching the video format of the show, I'm not losing it. I'm not going crazy. Just cracking my neck and stretching it out. Welcome. And if I look up, for those who are watching on YouTube or Spotify, if I look up every here and there, it's because I'm watching the end of this Suns Jazz game. It's an NBA Cup game, as was this Knicks game tonight. And listen, I was already confused last year with the jerseys and the new court schemes and just regular games. They toy with them. It's impossible. And now you add in this tournament, there are even more jerseys. They screw with the courts. And 90% of these courts look absolutely horrendous. It looks like, when you're playing 2K Pro-Am and you play against, a team that's got a squad, they make their own arena and everything. It's so gimmicky, man. I'm trying my best to buy into this whole shtick, but you can't even tell who's who anymore because these teams aren't even wearing their traditional color schemes on their uniforms and on their court anymore. They're like the Wizards tonight played against the Knicks. First of all, the court looked like garbage. They're wearing jerseys that are so far away from Wizards jerseys, I forgot who were playing. I had to look down to the scoreboard. My dad comes in the room. He's old school. So he looks at the TV. He's like, what the hell is that? And I'm like, yeah, I had to explain to him that they're doing a mid-season tournament. And he's like, what do you mean a mid-season tournament? I'm like, well, they have a tournament in the middle of the season. And at the end of it, you get a trophy. He's like, so the playoffs? And I'm like, it's like, no, you just get a trophy. It has nothing to do with the NBA playoffs. And he goes, why? And I'm like, well, that's what we're all saying right now. But I watch these games and I get into these games just because I want to see the Knicks win basketball games. And the Knicks have won 2 in a row, 5 out of 6, and they are now 7-5 overall on the season. And you take that. You take that after a gauntlet of a schedule with tough opponents, with a heavy workload of back-to-backs in there, playing half of these games damn near without RJ Barrett. Not bad. The Knicks, you look back at the schedule. The Knicks are winning every game that you looked at on the schedule when it came out. They've taken care of every team they were supposed to take care of, right? They've played the Hawks twice. They've beaten them twice. They got one of the back-to-back games against the Cavs. They beat the piss out of the Spurs, the Hornets, and now the Wizards. So those teams that the Knicks look at beforehand on the schedule and say, we have to beat those teams, they're beating them exactly how they're supposed to be beating them as well. Their losses have come against teams that you expect them to lose against, and they've all been pretty good games outside the Pelicans loss. But the Boston games, both of those, tough losses. Both of them were close, regardless of what the score was in the final game they played against each other. That was close up until the midway through the fourth quarter. The Milwaukee game was very close, right? Playing these games, again, hurt, banged up. You're playing teams with Hall of Fame talent, and you come out of it 7-5 so far. So the Knicks, I'll take it. And I'm going to try to make this a shorter episode because this is the first of a back-to-back, and, I want to get this out as soon as I can. It is the night of the Knick game. As I'm recording, it just ended maybe a couple hours ago, if even. But, yeah, this NBA tournament I can't get into. It's ugly watching these. The uniforms are just so terrible. The court schemes are so gross. Fucking good God. 120-99 was the final score in this game against the Wizards in Washington, D.C. tonight. For the Knicks to even up and now improve to 1-1 in group play of this in-season tournament. First half of this game, Knicks play well for about a quarter and a half. Mitchell Robinson starts the game with a putback dunk and one, misses the foul shot. But the Knicks play well. Fournier and Deuce, we saw them check into the game late first quarter. That was surprising to me. Deuce comes in, he draws an immediate charge. Does what he does, man. Brunson gets hot from three. That continued throughout the night. There was a lot of cutting, a lot of passing, a lot of screening early on. The Knicks are up 11 points at halftime. Second half, the Knicks get very cold. Started to slip towards the end of the second quarter. Second half comes, and they are very cold. Randall and Brunson are missing shots early on. You had a bad Josh Hart turnover, poor transition defense. The Knicks were just very slow getting into their sets. And, there's a big difference when this team, with the way they play slow, but when they play super slow and they start getting into their sets and they don't begin their half-court offense until there's 12 seconds left in the shot clock as opposed to 5 or 6 seconds more, that's a big difference, and that's going to screw you up. So they were playing bad basketball. The lead was eventually cut to 5. But the Knicks get hot soon after that. But the Wizards answer, and they cut it to 5, 4, and eventually it becomes a 3-point game after 3 quarters. I think it was a 5-point game after 3 quarters. But fourth quarter comes, and you got Quickley out there with the Yuck lineup. It's Quickley out there with Deuce, Josh Hart, Fournier, and Hartenstein. So Quickley's the only offensive weapon out there. So he's doing all the scoring as the only weapon until Brunson checks in. But it was kind of ugly having to watch just Quickley be effective out there for a few minutes. I mean, Randall in the second half was just very lazy going over screens. That's an issue. And there were just multiple times where you had 3 Knicks under the basket and then a Wizard would just fly out of nowhere to come grab the rebound. That always pisses me off. But Brunson checks in a few minutes into the quarter, and all of a sudden a tight game becomes an absolute blowout. He knocks down a shot, takes another offensive foul again because of course he does. Then he finds Randall under the basket a few minutes later, knocks down a 3-pointer himself again. This puts the Knicks up 13 points, and the Knicks just dominating the glass, great half-court defense, and they kind of just pile on from there. Quickley's padding up the stats, because the Knicks in tournament play are trying to build the points differential because that matters in tournament play. Quickley outscored the Wizards' entire team in the fourth quarter, 16-15. The Wizards didn't reach double-figure points in the fourth until the 1 minute 44 mark. So that was it. And the Knicks pull away to win 120-99 tonight in Washington, D.C. And great offense, man. You know, just you're seeing a little bit more, just like new wrinkles in this offense. You're seeing some weak side pin downs that opens up 3-pointers for the Knicks. You know, they're just doing more off ball, a lot of cutting, a lot of passing, a lot of screening recently. I don't know where the Knicks numbers are on the year. I can't imagine they're great because their offense started very poorly for a few games. But I feel like during this stretch of 5 out of 6, there have been more cutting, more effort to pass the ball, move the rock, find the weak side. There have been a lot more screening on the weak side. I feel like there's been an uptick there. Tonight, actually, the Knicks at parts of this game were running 5 out, you know, and that's something I'd like to see more. You know, you've obviously got to have the right guys on the floor. But with the way they're shooting, if you can play 5 out, that's just plenty of room for someone like Brunson to operate. Gives him tons of space. You saw it in the fourth quarter. They ran 5 out with that lineup out there. Yeah, the Knicks are shooting so well. You know, they're 42% tonight on their threes, 16 out of 38. And, I mean, it helped because Wes Unseld, for whatever reason, was running a zone, despite the Knicks knocking down every three they took. But, yeah, you're seeing a little, you know, you're seeing Mitchell Robinson. The numbers might not say it, but it seems like the Knicks are making more of an effort to feature him tonight. In the second quarter, Randall finds him in post-up. And in the very next possession, you see Randall running a 4-5 pick and roll with Mitch, and he finds him for that dump-off pass that Mitch slams down. So there's a little bit of a difference, you know, and again, might not show up on the stat sheets yet, but I think it's been good in their last 6 games or so, and I think once Brunson starts finding his game and puts it all together, I think we'll start seeing the difference overall. And speaking of Jalen Brunson, we're going to hand him his third Bing Bong ball, his third game ball of the season tonight.
Bing bang.
Yeah, Brunson, 32 points tonight, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, no turnovers, 44% shooting. He was 10 of 23, 60% on his threes. He was 6 out of 10, and he was 100% at the line for a plus 18 overall. Jalen Brunson tearing up cup play in these 2 cup games. He had 45 points against the Bucks, career high in 3-pointers, and now 32 points in Washington tonight. He's scoring the ball like crazy. You know, it's the oddest thing ever to me, seeing him so incredibly efficient outside the arc on his 3-pointers versus what's happening with his 2-point shot right now, you know, because he's sniping on that 3-point line. He's now had back-to-back games with at least 6 threes. I just mentioned he had an 8 3-pointer game earlier this year. I mean, he's 48% on the 3-point line this season, and that's on 7 attempts. I don't think that's going to last all year, but he did shoot 42% last year, and the fact that he's upped his volume this year, that's really impressive to me. Off the dribble shooting is something that Jalen Brunson wasn't great at when he was in Dallas. He comes to the Knicks and he's worked on that pull-up game. His footwork has been incredible. He's got the hesitations, the head fakes, and he's added the pull-up 3-point jumper. You know, we'll see what happens inside the arc because he's still struggling at the first 2 levels. His 3-point percentage is 48%. I think his 2-point percentage is now below 40%. So and I'm saying if at this point, because I'm getting a little tired of waiting. If he finds his mid-range, if he finds his floater, that is just going to open up that 3-point game for him further. I mean, that would, it's a close game. It's a 1-point game. Phoenix is up with about a minute left. Booker's running lead guard because they've got Beal, who that's a whole mess. But you could just see his winning impact. His winning impact was felt tonight, right? Oh my God, Durant almost dunked that on the entire world. I think he was called for. I think he drew contact. Yeah. Crack my neck. Yeah, I think it's the way I sleep, bro. Where am I? Oh, yeah, you could feel the winning impact that Jalen Brunson had tonight. I mean, the plus 18, sure, that tells it right there. But the fourth quarter, again, that's where we saw it. You had only Quickley out there to start the period. It's a 5-point game. Brunson checks in 2.5 minutes into the quarter, stays in the rest of the way, and before you know it, it's a 20-point game. So his shooting has been great. His passing has been much better lately. He's hitting the weak side more. The last 2 nights, we're seeing a lot of that. We saw in the game before this. Who did we play before this? We just played. I'm drawing a blank, but a couple nights ago, he was hitting Grimes on the weak side. He was hitting the weak side and finding Donte. He found Quickley on the weak side. Tonight, again, he found Donte on the weak side for a 3. He found Quickley later in the game on the weak side for a 3. He had 7 assists, no turnovers tonight. He had 8 assists the other night. He's starting to make more of an effort to pass, and that's what we want to see. Take over in the fourth quarter, be a point guard for the first 3 quarters. I heard someone say that, and I like that a lot. So you're seeing the passing come along, and you're continuing to get some very good defense from him, right? I mentioned he took another offensive foul tonight. 7 rebounds. Also, that's, we don't see that a ton from a small guard like him. Just the hustle, getting banged around. He was diving on the floor tonight. He's always getting hurt, not hurt, but he's always playing tough and getting hit by somebody just because he plays so physical and fearless out there. So it was good to have Brunson string together some good games now, and I just hope he finds his touch at the basket because that looks bad. It looks very bad. And again, I know he's historically been great inside the arc, but I keep saying he's going to get it going, but he doesn't. It's just been such a stark contrast in his 3-point game versus in the first 2 levels, but we'll see. It's his 3rd game ball of the season, so not bad. And then we're going to go to Immanuel Quickley on the bench getting 1. He gets the game ball off the bench, and Immanuel Quickley leads the Knicks in 7 already. He's already got 7 game balls across 12 games played. 24 points tonight. Did he have 24 or 27? He had 27, didn't he? Yeah, he had 27 points tonight. 6 rebounds and 4 assists, along with a steal. He shot 10 of 18, 3 of 7 from 3, and he was 4 of 5 at the foul line. He outscored the Wizards in the fourth quarter, 16-15. Dude's playing his ass off this year, man. He's been so important to this team. And he was averaging a career high, 16 points per game right now. He's shooting damn near 50, 40, 90 right now. He's getting pretty close. So, he's both increasing his chances at getting paid more money, and he's also building trade value. And it's got to be one of the other two. That made no sense. It's got to be one or the other. The Knicks have to do one or the other, right? They either have to overpay for him in the summer, or they have to use him in a deal this season as an asset. You can't do anything else. Overpay or deal him. You cannot let this kid walk for nothing. That would be so classic Knicks, and it would not be a good look to just let him walk for nothing. So if you don't feel comfortable paying this kid $20, $25 million, since he's a backup point guard and he's not going to start on this team, trade him. Maybe the Knicks are looking at it like I'd be comfortable overpaying him that much money because maybe we'll start him at the 2 next to Brunson and we plan on going and getting a 6-man. I don't know. That could be something they're thinking. Maybe they do pay him. I mean, it's a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money. So it's going to be an interesting development, whatever happens. I just hope the Knicks pick one of those two options. Because he's been great. Him and Brunson play so well together too. Tonight they were on the floor. They play off each other. It's honestly, it's in conversation to be the best point guard duo in the NBA. Not backcourt. I'm not talking about 1-2. I'm talking about point guard and your backup point guard. Now, in this positionless nature of the game we have today, I don't know how many teams have that strict point guard, backup point guard rotation, but you got a top 10 point guard and you got probably the best 6-man. So Durant takes a 3, clutch 3, and looks like the Suns might pull away up 4 with 18 seconds left. Holy crap. That was a clutch shot. Wow. Kevin Durant just pulled it. Why do they have whoever they have on him? I guess he's got wingspan. I didn't notice until he tried to contest that shot. That was a nice shot by Durant. That was tough defense, better offense. Holy crap. Just knocked down a elbow 3 like it was nothing over somebody's face. I don't know who that is. Jesus Christ. Quickley gets his 7th game ball of the season to lead the Knicks. Donte DiVincenzo played well. He slid into the starting spot tonight with no RJ, no Grimes, and he got 14 points, 5 out of 9 shooting, and 4 of 8 from 3. Big second quarter where he was perfect from the field, 3 for 3, all on 3-pointers. And I was waiting for a night like this. I've been waiting for a night where Donte DiVincenzo knocks down his 3-point shot, because that's why we got him, right? He brings you a lot of defense. He brings you a lot of, the rebounding is going to do some of that. He'll run in transition. He'll cut off the ball, but I want him to shoot the ball because we need 3-point shooting. And I was happy to see him knock down 4 of them tonight. So, we'll see what happens. Should he stay in the starting lineup, even if one of RJ or Grimes returns? I would prefer keeping him in the starting lineup over Josh Hart. Maybe he stays full-time, even when both are healthy, right? Maybe RJ, obviously he's going to start, but maybe you have Grimes go to the bench when they both return and Donte starts. I don't know. Because I've always liked Grimes with the bench. I mean, we talk about this all the time, how it allows, playing with the bench allows Quentin Grimes more freedom, right? We just talked about it in episode 579, where RJ where Grimes has been scoring a lot in double figures in games where RJ is sat, because RJ is one of the 3 go-to options on the Knicks. So whenever he's separated from those 3 guys, he seems to get more reps. And I think Grimes would really shine with the second unit because they pass the ball more. And having Donte with the starting unit might mesh too, because he's off the ball a lot. Because a lot of the times when he has too much reps on the ball and he starts ball handling, he starts overpassing like he's still with Golden State. And he's also a great cutter. The guy can make a cut. And you put him into that starting lineup, that might help. That might help because they don't have a ton of guys who cut in the starting lineup. As the Suns are about to win this. Yeah. So it's good to see Donte thrive. Now that he got more touches. And Thibs still ran 9 men. It might have just because it's a back-to-back. But he did play Fournier. He played Deuce tonight. Fournier Scored 6 points. Did he even score 6 points? I don't know if that's right. But it says 6 points here. 1 of 6 shooting, 0 of 4 from 3. 16 minutes. He was awful tonight. He was just out there chucking. He was getting shots off while he could. Didn't exactly help his trade value. Deuce McBride, I thought he looked fine. 5 points, 2 of 3 shooting, 1 steal, 14 minutes. He comes in again. He takes the charge right away. Just a pest out there in the point of attack. I mean, that steal he got, reading the game, quick awareness, just jumping up above, jumping right into the action at the top of the key to pick it off there and lead the fast break. Nice pass to Ihart, who dished it to Josh Hart. So, yeah, I would like to see Deuce get more of these situational minutes. I think he's helpful with his defense. But I thought it was nice that Thibs actually ran 9 tonight and he didn't run 8 on the first of a back-to-back, So no real critiques. I thought Donte probably could have gotten more looks there in the third quarter when the Knicks were struggling because he was very hot in the second. And the lineup to start the fourth quarter was a bit brutal. Again, Quickley was really the only weapon out there. But again, you didn't have 2 of your starters, so I'm not going to criticize Tom Thibodeau for that. And that's really it on the game. I don't want to dissect the Washington Wizards game. There's not much to pick apart. If you care about the in-season tournament, the Knicks are now 1-1. And again, a 19 or a 21-point blowout definitely helps them in the, rankings with the point differential. So when we return, though, before we wrap it up, I want to touch on one more topic. This has been floating around. I mean, it's always a topic that seems to be a conversation starter in the Knicks universe. We hear this guy's name all the time in trade rumors regarding the Knicks. So I want to talk about this. It's starting to pop up again lately. Maybe this is the first year it actually comes to fruition. Hopefully the Knicks aren't one of the teams who trade for him, but we'll talk about it when we return from our first break here on BD4. Stay with us. Be right back. BD4 episode 580.
We appreciate you sticking around and listening so far. When you have a chance, be sure to open YouTube to subscribe, like, and comment. And if you're already watching on YouTube, be sure to head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. We appreciate your feedback and are always looking to improve. Now, with that all said, let's get you back to the show. You can also find us on social media. If you'd like, you can follow BD4 on Facebook, and we're at BD4Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. We appreciate you helping us grow more and more every day. Let's get back to it.
Welcome back to the show. Episode 580 of BD4. I appreciate you stopping by. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to the podcast BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We do Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. If you are new here to the show, you can subscribe to this podcast, download these episodes, share it with your friends on social media. Or if you just want to listen to the pod or watch the pod, you can do that too. You can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to it on Spotify. And you can also watch the video edit of this podcast on YouTube and Spotify. If you want to follow me on social media, you can do that too. I'm on Instagram at RobJCarbone and at BD4Pod, 2 accounts. And I'm also on Twitter at BD4Pod. And if you want to follow BD4 on Facebook, you can also do that as well. And if you want to go to BD4blog.com, we write a blog where we talk about the Yankees, talk about the Knicks. I have an MMA article up there too. I'm trying to get more active with the blog this year because I've been the last year or so, I've been pretty quiet there, but I've been much more active to start the season, talking a lot of Knicks on the blog. So if you want to go to BD4blog.com, we have a few articles that are fairly new regarding the Knicks this year. So BD4blog.com. If you want to support the blog, if you want to support the podcast, support the YouTube channel, you can always help us out on Venmo at Robert-Carbone-Jr-28. At Robert-Carbone-Jr-28 on Venmo to support the channel, support the podcast, and help us out. So I appreciate you all tuning in. And let's wrap this up with something that I want to talk about. I didn't want to bring it up the other night because I felt like it was useless, but since this is a shorter episode and since I don't want to just talk about Wizards, Knicks, and then leave it on that, I figured we'd add this in here at the end to get something in here. There's rumors again going around that Zach LaVine might get moved. Again, this is something we continue to hear years on top of years now, it feels like. But I was reading a little bit about it, and Fred Katz, reporter for the Knicks, wrote an excellent piece on The Athletic. And so I just want to share some of my thoughts from that article. Saying, listen, LaVine was brought to the Bulls 2017, right? Then they brought in Billy Donovan in 2020. They made the trade for Vucevic in 2020. I think that's when Vucevic came in from Orlando. And then they brought DeRozan in the next year. Right now, you're in the midst of a 2023-24 season. It's still not working out. They're still not winning. There are rumors that Mike Reinsdorf, their chairman, he's never been a big fan of LaVine. You're hearing that Bulls players have grown tired of him and just doesn't seem like it's the greatest situation for Zach LaVine to stay in Chicago. Zach LaVine is obviously a very good basketball player. He's got the accolades. I think he's a 2-time dunk contest winner. He's made the All-Star team. He's an explosive athlete, a dynamic 3-level scorer, very efficient. Can also play off the ball, right? He makes good cuts, comes off screens. He's a good movement shooter and catch and shoot. 3-point fadeaways. He's a good scorer, man. The Knicks are looking for their superstar to put next to Brunson, their MVP level guy to get them over the top, right? They want a top 15 player. They want a guy who would be the clear-cut best player if he came to the Knicks. LaVine is, again, a good scorer, but he's got downsides. He's pretty bad defensively, and I'm being kind. To put him next to Brunson in the backcourt, while it would score a ton of points, I just think about the postseason and how horrific that could be defensively. They would get picked apart. They would get eaten alive. Not to mention, as good as he is offensively, that's a lot of ball handlers. That's Brunson, Randall, LaVine, and Barrett. Look at the way things are shaping up with the Clippers right now. Look at how the Brooklyn Nets worked out. I just don't know if LaVine is the perfect fit for the Knicks. As I look at the screen and ESPN showing highlights of the Portland Trailblazers game, and they have a horrific court. My God. And LaVine's just never won a damn thing. Speaking of playoffs, he's been in the league for 10 years now, and he's played a total of 4. That's right, 4 playoff games. I don't see that guy as a top 15 type player. I don't see him as a superstar player. He doesn't do that. He doesn't move the needle. He doesn't get you over the top. Does he marginally improve you? Maybe. But does he get you much closer to a championship? Does he elevate you? No. It's very important for the Knicks. This isn't a joke. This isn't 2K. This is very important for the Knicks to not mess up their next move. Their next move must elevate them to be at championship level. This move likely wouldn't do that. So why use assets, right? Draft capital, young players, and on top of that, have to pay massive money on your salary cap for that. The Knicks own all their first round picks. And in addition, they've got 4 protected picks they've got from other teams. They're loaded with young talent on the roster. Barrett, Quickley, Grimes, Robinson. LaVine's locked in on a laughable long-term deal. So what happens if they make this trade for LaVine and Donovan Mitchell is not interested in going back to Cleveland in the summer of 2025? What if Cleveland keeps struggling this year and they move him before then? What if Embiid becomes available? You never know still. If any of that stuff happens, the Knicks might not be in on those sweepstakes because they made the move for LaVine. LaVine's making $40 million this year. The Knicks are less than $3 million short right now of the luxury tax. Trading for LaVine would put them over. Now, is there a world where the Knicks can make a LaVine deal and retain enough for the superstar move? From the article, Katz was saying maybe, right? He was saying a first round pick, unprotected, plus one of RJ, Quickley, or Grimes. That still leaves plenty left. But he was also saying how LaVine, I didn't know this, is eligible for a $740,000 raise if he's dealt. Now he could waive that if he goes, if he wants to make it easier for his desired team. But it still means that the Knicks would have to shell out $37 million to get LaVine. So who can help you get to that figure? Well, Josh Hart can't be moved until next summer because of the new CBA. Evan Fournier is making $18.9 million this year. So there's an option. DiVincenzo's making $10.9 million this year. And Isaiah Hartenstein, who's on an expiring deal, is making $7.8 million. So that would get the Knicks barely over. I think like $0.3 million over. So you would likely have to add one more guy in there. You keep looking. Grimes is extension eligible next summer. And then obviously Quickley is currently on his last year with the Knicks. So if the Knicks, again, if they don't want to pay Immanuel Quickley, a backup point guard here is probably his ceiling. If they don't want to pay him what he's expected to make, 20, 25 million, they can certainly add him to that deal and still leave stuff left over. So again, is it worth it though by then? Is that worth it? Is it a good return? Quickley is super important to this Knicks team. He's the engine of that bench. Not to mention you're adding Donte and iHeart to that. So there goes your entire bench. Sans Hart. So sure, maybe you can get an Alex Caruso in return plus another or something like that. But is all that worth moving for a talented player with big question marks? I don't see the point of making a move for an all-star player who's not a superstar. To me, your next move has to be the home run move, or it could be a marginal move that doesn't really get rid of anything at all, but it helps you with small things, like a move for some size, right? Because the Knicks need size at wing. They need size at power forward behind Julius. Maybe you go and acquire a Marcus Morris. That probably doesn't cost a ton, But trading for a star who's not a superstar like LaVine or Towns, that just makes no sense. Why would you waste the gold that you have? You don't want to waste that. That's something that's important. You don't want to mess up any chances of making that home run move. And that home run move is, I tell you right now, it's not Zach LaVine. I don't know why the Knicks are always linked with that. I don't know why in the headlines, in the media, the conversation surrounding the Knicks is always on trade talks and star trades. They're finally good after all of this time And all people want to talk about is, well, they're not good enough for a title. They need another guy. No shit. Like, the Knicks just went from a 20-win team in the bottom of the basement to a damn near 50-win team. Do you really expect them to go from that to a finals contender? Like, name me every single NBA team. I would love for anybody out there to name me every team. List off all the NBA teams that went from 0 to 100 like that. I cannot imagine it's a very long list if there's even one. You know, so it's just these rumors, these conversations I hear when I turn on ESPN, wrongfully so. I don't know why I'm turning on ESPN. I don't, but sometimes I just scroll to the channels and I hear they're talking about the Knicks, and it's always the same thing. It's like all these other teams they talk about, they get credit for these great rebuilds. You know, oh, they're in the right direction, this and that. With the Knicks, it's like we always just need to jump to, well, who's going to be their next star? Because they still need to start. It's like they're stating the obvious. Yeah, we know that. But it's like, relax. It's okay. Take a deep breath. I get it, right? Trauma. A lot of us are still healing. But my Christ, sometimes we got to appreciate where we are for a second. We've got a young team, friendly contracts, draft capital, good. We're in a good financial situation, a competent front office, a solid head coach, and a good coaching staff. Everybody with a brain knows they still need that superstar, but you got to be patient. You don't jump on a good player like LaVine or Towns simply because, well, you got to do something. That's another ridiculous narrative that I've heard. The whole you got to do something garbage. That's insane. Says who? Twitter? Oh, thanks. Like, why? Why do they have to do something? So they can go 1-2 games further? Then what? What happens when they're left without assets, without cap space, draft capital, and their third round exit every year? You're stuck paying LaVine $40-50 million a year. You're stuck paying Towns $60 million a year. Then you're going to bitch about that. How the Knicks were too impatient. How they did the same old mistake. Trading the farm for Carmelo Anthony. Relax, New York. Relax. We need to stand pat until we get the home run move lined up. That's the best case. Is it unfortunate? Yeah. Call it purgatory. Yeah. But it's better than hell. And you don't get to heaven working on yourself for 2 seconds. You know, you get to heaven by working on yourself over time. You don't snap your fingers and God lets you in. Read the damn Bible. I don't know where I'm going with this. It feels like a Colin Cowherd analogy where he just goes totally off topic. But, like, it takes time. All right? So I don't think the Knicks are in the greatest situation, but I think they're in a much better situation than people think. And getting that star, there's no rush. You don't just jump on Zach LaVine because he's good. No, you need the guy who's great. You need the guy who's going to not guarantee, but going to come close to guaranteeing that you get to the top. And it's not Towns, it's not LaVine. It's a top 15 player. You know, it's a Mitchell, it's an Embiid, in my opinion. It's one of those guys. It's not an all-star. You know, it's a superstar. So we'll wrap it up with that. We'll head to our final break, get back, and wrap this up with our trivia. And that'll be that. Let's go.
If you have time in the day or maybe just prefer old-fashioned reading over listening, then you can always follow along and subscribe to BD4 Blog by going to bd4blog.com. We're not on there as often, but when we do post, it's just as entertaining, opinionated, and passionate as we are on this podcast. Thank you so much. And let's keep on with the show.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. All right, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. Welcome back to the podcast. If you are new, well, you can subscribe to the show, download these episodes, share it on social media with your friends. But thank you for tuning in to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. With that all said, let's wrap this up with our trivia. All right, so for this episode of the show, episode 580, our NYY-NYK-MMA question of the day is, Mitchell Robinson recently became the 46th player in Knicks history to play 300-plus games with the team. Name 3 others. All right, Mitchell Robinson recently became the 46th player in Knicks history to play 300-plus games with the team. Name 3 others. All right, so that's our trivia question for this episode 580. Our NYY-NYK MMA trivia question of the day is, one last time, Mitchell Robinson recently became the 46th player in Knicks history to play 300-plus games with the organization. Name 3 others. So, that is all I've got for this show. Episode 580 in the books of BD4. I appreciate you tuning in. Kevin Durant is insane. He finished that game with 38 points. Booker had 24 and 15 at point guard tonight. All right. Appreciate it. And I'll end it here. Later. Thank you. And I'll see you in the second of the back-to-back tomorrow night. Later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you, and we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks!